Good morning. All right, let's do this. I only have less I have less time than usual because I've got to delete some stuff. I forgot to do it again, and yesterday I ran out of memory. So let's go. This is the 13th day of December 2016. I've added actually 2 new principles to the Good Life meditation. So let's jump right into it. I'll talk about the 2 new principles up front, and then add them in. And I'm going to go quickly with everything, like I always try to do. So the first is, this is something that I do every day to remind myself of my objectives and the principles which guide my life, and to help grow and refine them, and to challenge them, to take them on, to destroy them if I can. So the first new one is something that I'm calling the arena. And this is going to go tacked on to a second to last, and the other new one is going to be the very last one. And arena is a reminder to myself that throughout the day, every situation that I am is an arena, almost like imagine a gladiatorial games. It's an arena where I get to practice the various principles. So, for example, if I find myself in a situation where I'm wanting something, but I know that it's better for me to have just a little or none at all, then I get to exercise temperance. If I'm in another situation where it's tempting to the conversation amongst my fellows turns to gossip, or I'm tempted to spill the beans, share a little gossip, but I know better, so I get a chance to exercise. It's actually a new sub-principle. Was it propriety? That's right. It's going to go under temperance. So temperance will now have propriety. We'll have suffering, simplicity, and propriety, because it hurts sometimes to not be able to gossip. Similarly, when I'm in a situation where I might need to ascertain the nature of things to better formulate a plan of how I'm going to deal with it. I can use the principle of nature the one that always comes to mind is walking into a meeting at work, and as I walk in, I catalog the various things and the people that are in there, so I can assess what their nature is, and the collective nature, and the nature of the meeting topic at hand, and I can do a better job of working within that environment. Sin and damnation, recognizing what the sins are, and trying to avoid those. The sin of the risk of avoiding risk. When I see a risk that I'm trying to avoid, I have to ask myself, what's the deeper risk? So everything in life, every circumstance in life, is an arena for me to exercise these. May I call them virtues? I think they are, because at least in my worldview, having these qualities, having these traits are indeed virtues. That's why I'll define them as principles. That's why I try to align myself and train myself to living according to them. So the next one is, and this will be the new, very last one, is the philosophy, the season of philosophy. The season of philosophy. This is a reminder to myself that, as with plums and apricots and persimmons, there is a season to philosophy. And it may be very long or very short. It may be very bumper crop, or it may be lacking. That's no failing necessarily of the individual. It may be a failing of motive. It may be a failing of taking chance of opportunity, or maybe simply disinterest. Someone is not interested in philosophy and may choose to simply not go down that road. But in any case, it's a limited time, by simple virtue of the fact of our finite lifespans. So if you're very, very fortunate, your season of philosophy will reign from the age of reason until the moment of your death. More likely, your faculties of reason and higher thinking will begin to falter later in age, as I already feel mine are. I can feel the waning activity. Maybe that's why I'm so motivated to do this now, to get it out. Well, I still have it. I still have the ability, like I have anything. But you know, this is just something that I do. But at least I can put out my best effort, paint my best picture while the sun shines, make hay while the sun shines. So the season of philosophy, a reminder to myself to not wait, and also to remember that that you can indeed have different times during that season. The things that I produced in my 20s as a young mind were very different. They were very interesting from my perspective. I really enjoyed making them, but I look back now and they seem rather naive. They seem rather naive now, although they contain a spontaneity and an energy that I could scarcely reproduce now, that I really kind of, and an optimism. I'm already a very optimistic guy, but you should have seen me in my 20s. Wow. I could make a black cat into a rainbow. Let's get on with it now. So the 3 objectives: 1, to develop and maintain good sound life principles; 2, to cultivate good emotional reactions; and to 3, perform good actions. There are 16 principles. Wow, that's a lot. First is the principle of war. I wake every morning ready to go to war. Not necessarily against anybody else, but first and foremost against myself. War against my principles. War against my objectives. War against my philosophy. Ready to slash and burn. To no higher. Nothing would make me happier than to finish the day bereft of any principles or any guiding objectives, left standing bare naked, bruised, and alone, shivering in the cold indifference of the universe, without a single principle to comfort me. That's my goal, and I welcome anyone that will help me along those lines. Truly, I want to cultivate a mind that seeks to enlist the aid of others in destroying everything I hold dear in terms of philosophy. And likewise, I'll endeavor to do the same in a very diplomatic and, what's the right word? A diplomatic and sociable manner to anyone that's interested in engaging in such discourse regarding their own. 2, the principle of reason. If war is my object, reason is my weapon, and I'll wield it through the deft application of objectivity. That's a powerful weapon. I could go on more, but I need to move on. I'm simply going to run out of time otherwise. Again, the atomic principle. The universe is made of atoms, bits and pieces that are flowing and changing, ever coursing from one thing to another. The universe dissolves one form and reconstitutes those pieces, those atoms, into something else. I've been many things, the stuff of which I'm made. Many, many, many things over time, including long before the Earth was formed, mere dust floating amidst intergalactic space. It's good to remember that. I will very soon die, but the stuff of which I'm made will persist. No soul, no likeness, no facsimile thereof of me, but not even my memory, not even my a hinting whisper of what I was. 4, the principle of nature. Everything in the universe has some nature, and it's a worthwhile activity to catalog and remind ourselves of what the nature of things are, so that we can keep it in mind, and also be ready to better deal with the reality of the world, including ourselves. What is our nature? So I always pick something. I pick the nature of time. Always these strange things I pick. Rarely do I pick animals. Oh, and I want to add to this, when I catalog the nature of things, I want to catalog the essential nature. Now, to illustrate that point, maybe I won't choose time. Maybe I'll choose an animal. So, gosh, if I do this, gosh, this is another one of those ones. Some of this stuff sounds so harsh. dog. My dog. Little Ollie. Ollie the dog. Whoops. There we go. Ollie the dog is a four-legged canine who lives his life with my family and enjoys, I think, a pretty good life. He had a rough one as a shelter pup. You know, he went from third chance shelter, you know, being brought in to Irvine from some other places. I think he had it pretty rough. Nobody wanted him. But now he's got it pretty good. And we love him to death. His nature is to be social, to be part of a pack, to be rather dominant at times. I think he thinks he's the alpha. To be very protective of my wife and daughter, to love to eat, to love to sniff, to love to go for walks. Unless it's at night, he doesn't like to go outside if it's chilly. It's kind of his nature. Now, let's talk about the essential nature. The essential nature is that he is to borrow from Marcus Aurelius a little bit, a contexture of nerves, a network, a sinews to bones and meat, and genetic code, and mandate from his genes illustrated in his instincts. A warm, animate bit of life that will very soon perish away and dissolve into nothing, to never be remembered after those who love him are gone. That's the nature of Ollie the dog. See what I mean? I could have made it even more stark than that, but I held back. I'm very fond of the starkness. It's like a slap in the face to my illusions of what is it an illusion of? It's an illusion of, maybe it's not an illusion, it's telling myself stories about that this is more than it really is. We like to tell ourselves that we're special in terms of the universe, and that there's some depth here, and that there's some hidden meaning and significance to us. It really doesn't appear that that's the case. Although, if you look at it objectively, we are pretty significant, as it appears so far that we're the only life in the universe, which in itself is pretty damn special. So if you're looking for some special, you can hang your hat right there. Okay, next, moving on from from nature, we go to the principle of maturity, which is composed of wisdom and fortitude. Maturity is the quality of having some understanding about the world and ability to utilize that understanding in making good choices, and also being able to weather our bad choices. That's where wisdom, gained over time, comes in, and fortitude, which is practice, kind of like building up your muscles, having the ability, the mental fortitude to push through difficulty. They both yield the quality of maturity, but are especially potent when they're brought together. Now, next, I think, is the social principle. And beneath that, we have the principle of justice and diplomacy. And didn't I know I added propriety to temperance? That's right. I wonder if propriety belongs here. I'll think about that. So, social principle, human beings are social animals. We need one another to live. Our best ends are social ends, as I always say. And the most refined and distilled form of virtue is social virtue. I'll define virtue later. And along with the social arts is the ability to recognize and seek after justice within the society, and also to cultivate the diplomatic arts, not for untoward gains, but in order to better facilitate communication between groups and individuals, in order to help us all achieve our more virtuous ends. After the social principle comes, did I miss something there? Temperance, which has its sub-principles of simplicity. No, it's not in that order. Sub-principles of temperance are, simplicity, No. I just said it just a minute ago. Propriety, simplicity, and suffering. Propriety is doing proper things within the constructs of our society, in all times, in private and in public. In particular, the one that I really like to pick out is to not gossip. I almost want to make that its own dang principle, but it actually fits in with temperance so well. Do not gossip. It also fits in with the social principle as well. Restrain oneself, and if I'm being emphatic, it's because I'm telling it to myself. I'm already one who doesn't gossip very much, but I want to become one who doesn't gossip at all and does not tolerate gossip in my presence. Now that doesn't mean I'm going to chastise others and say don't gossip. I'm going to simply, if I can, get the heck out of Dodge. So if I'm in a situation, for example, a meeting comes to an end and small talk has started up and people start gossiping about their coworkers, I'm just going to excuse myself and get out. Likewise in private situations, and I will not allow myself to gossip under any circumstance. Now, talking about someone behind their back when it's towards a virtuous aim, for example, talking with my brother about the long-term care needs of my mother, isn't gossip. That's different. We all know the difference, so don't do that. I'm telling myself. The next piece is simplicity. That's right. Just one more time, simplicity in all things. Simplicity of living. Simplicity. Own few things. Live in a small house. Sleep in a rough bed if you can handle it. Tolerate rough furniture, little bits. Own few things. Simple meals. Simple words in conversation. I'm working on that one. I don't think my talk is flowery necessarily, but I can definitely talk less. But I've got so much I want to say. Just keep it inside, Mark. But again, the season is ripe. So, and simplicity, to again use the words of Thoreau. And then finally, suffering. Suffering is part and parcel of temperance, because by virtue of the fact that you're restraining yourself means that you have some passion, some desire that you want to fulfill, and you're going to suffer a little bit in not executing on it. Live with it. There's no way around that unless you can somehow exercise that from your mind and life. Maybe a Buddhist monk can do that. Okay, after temperance comes, let me just count these real quick. War, reason, atomic, nature, social, temperance. Next is agency and indifference. Agents are anything that are alive, that exert some will upon the world, and their objects are the things that they create. Indifference is the subtraction of agents and their artifacts from the scene, and you're left with the raw, bare landscape of the universe, the indifferent, big I, indifferent universe. Not that the big I implies any agency, it simply implies that it's significant and distinguished from the lowercase indifference that I'll talk about in just a second. The great indifference, as I like to call it, is very fearful, the big I indifference. So we mask it up with artificial agents called God. And we ascribe God everywhere, fills in the gaps, like they like to say. Lowercase indifference is our perspective on the things that we have no influence over. There's a lot in the world that we can't do much about. And it's not worth getting overly upset about the things that you cannot control. So you have some indifference towards those things. It doesn't mean that we don't care. It just means that we don't let them gnaw away at our deeper selves when there's nothing we can really do about it anyway. Although we may be able to exercise some long-term impact on the world to push things in the right direction as we perceive it. So in that way, we don't ignore it. We remain indifferent to it while at the same time striving to make it better. That's a difficult juggling act to do that, but it's possible. I've done it myself now. Next is the the best seat in the house, which is right here, right now. And it's simply a perspective of not wanting to be anyone else, or not wanting to want to be doing anything else, or not wanting to want to be anywhere else. Simply being all right where I am, all the while striving to improve things. It's like being content along the way. That way you can get more out of life in the moments in between than just waiting for the high points. Okay, let's enumerate again. War, reason, atomic, nature, social, temperance, agency and indifference, best seat in the house. I believe the next one is purpose. There is no purpose. I'm holding my hand up so I can remember where I was. That helps. Put it down. There is no overt purpose in life other than getting our genes into the next generation, having sex and making babies and raising those babies to adult maturity, and then dying and getting the heck out of the way so that they can move on and take our place. That seems to be the only purpose that's really out there. So, well, in absence of that, we can make our own darn purpose. And I recommend the purpose of virtue, which is the overt improvement, objective improvement of well-being of as many as possible, including non-humans. Things like better education, clean water, improved sanitation, better health care, all these things and more. We can agree. And if we can't agree, then we can work on it and find a way to come to a happy compromise. It's a much better approach to purpose than dogma, which has no room for compromise. Okay, next, I got up to 9. Next is after virtue is, I believe, no, I don't think so. Let's try this again. War, reason, atomic, nature, maturity, social, temperance, agency and indifference, best seat in the house, purpose. Is it the risk of avoiding risk? That's the next principle. What risk do we uncover in the process of trying to avoid the risk at the surface level? For example, by choosing to live the sedate life that seems a sensible one, rather than live the adventure that you want to live in life, taking that great journey, making that great life adventure, rather stay home, get that stable job, work that steady income, maybe remain with mom and dad a few years longer, and pay off that house by the time you're 50. Yeah, and you put it off until you're 55, 60. Then you'll live the life that you want to live. That may work out for you, but you may be subjecting yourself to a far greater risk, which is the risk of losing the life that you want to live in this one here and now that we get. Because the person that you will be when you're 55 or 60 will not likely be the person that you are now. And yet the dream may echo in your mind, and the longing and the sense of loss, especially as the years progress and you get deeper and deeper down a path that you didn't want to go in. And the result is that you can actually become a monster of sorts, where your internal unhappiness and dissatisfaction becomes expressed in ways that are overt to others and painful to those around you. It's a tough thing. That leads now into sin and damnation. If you live such a life as I just described, you are sinning against your nature, assuming your nature is both social and virtuous. We don't want people acting on their nature if they're not either of those. We don't want selfish, dangerous people enacting their inner demons upon the world. So hold that in if you can. You exercise temperance. Keep that nasty part of yourself to yourself. The other types of sin are in a secular worldview are falsity, the state of being false, the credulity, the over-eagerness and willingness to believe, and the sin of faith, which is a horrible sin in Western society in particular. It deserves its own ranking in some way, but it fits so snugly within sin, credulity, and then faith. So I'll leave it there. Superstition and dogma, which I believe are self-evident. Dogma, of course, being that ascribe proclamations of truth that are where the say-so alone is reason enough to believe. That's not good. And finally, if you live a sinful life, you'll wind up in a damnation. But it won't be after you're dead. It'll be here and now. That's where the monster, going back to the monster part. The good news is that the damnation doesn't last very long. As soon as you die, damnation's over and you're done. And that comes into the final bit, nearly the final bit. It's the trifecta there of the risk of avoiding risk, sin and damnation, and finally the complete oblivion. All going to be gone. Which the bad news is there will be no reunion. There will be no final justice, reunion, or reconciliation. I didn't know if I said that right. Or maybe it's reunion, reconciliation, or complete justice. I think that sounds better. If you want to, you won't be meeting anybody afterlife. There's no reason to think so. At least I haven't seen any. Wow, what's this big fog bank? Rain, I wonder. Maybe not. And you won't have a chance to reconcile, and there won't be any final justice. The evildoers will get away with it if they're not prosecuted in this lifetime. So, if you have an interest in reunion, go reach out to them now. Get in the car this weekend and go see that person. Reconciliation, screw up your courage. Go offer the olive branch and reconcile with those people. And justice, seek after it now. It won't come later. At least there's no good reason to think so. And then getting near the end here, the willful time management is simply making good use of my time, and which I'll talk about in just a moment in today's thought and today's action plans. And then finally, right there at the end, the arena, which is the where we are now. Throughout the day, I have opportunities to exercise all these principles. It's a great chance at work, at home, in the car, in all social settings, even when I'm alone. And finally, the season of philosophy. Watch out, that season will come and go, and you better get out there and pick them olives while the time is ripe. Oh, I better stop. I'm almost done. So today's thought plan: collect my thoughts before breakfast, compose them over lunch, record them before dinner, and die before bedtime. Today's action plan: I will be a good, just, indifferent, temperate, and honest individual throughout the day. And today, human hashtags, you know all of those things. I'll just put them up on the screen. I haven't got time to go through them. Although I should. I'll go through them after I turn the camera off. I'm going to run out of time. And now I'm just going to wrap up and say thank you for watching. I hope that you have a good life and a great day and a really, really, really good life. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.